things that were written, or were you able to interview anybody?
No, I was not able to interview anybody. I don't think there's anyone still alive from that time. None of the Scotts, the only one of the Scottsboro boys that survived to actually have a life, marry, have a job, and write a book about it was Clarence Norris. And he was pardoned by Governor Wallace in 1956. And then sometime in the 70s, all of the charges were removed, but none of the people were alive anymore by then.
Oh, my goodness.
So no, there were no actual interviews. Well, but the literature on it is terrific.
But this has a lasting effect on the generations to come, because sometimes when all of this is resolved and people are just people, the past is sometimes brought up again, and then it takes a nosedive back into the situations of the past when that shouldn't happen.
Well, actually, some of the protests about the Scottsboro events, which were worldwide, are credited with being one of the origins of the civil rights movement, because that was the first time that black and white people had marched together in protest since segregation had become legal in the South. So that is, sometimes that event is credited with being an ancestor of the civil rights movement.
And Henriette Greenberg, that's the character?
Yes, that is the character, and she is strictly a fictional character.
So she stems from the letters from your mom, but that's where it ends. Everything else is a creation, right?
Right, and then there are historical characters in the novel, and most of the time, if they are speaking, they're speaking actual words that I've found, or sometimes maybe I've summarized what they said. But the historical characters, when they play a role, they are portrayed as truly as I could.
When you did the research on this, did you find anything surprising to you?
Oh, well, the whole thing was surprising to me, because I'd heard of it, but I really didn't know the details. So the thing that was most surprising to me was just how it could go on for so long, and how the Supreme Court it's almost as though their hands were tied. They were able to say to overturn the convictions on the basis of the suspects not having had adequate defense. But until the second Supreme Court case, they were not able to object to the fact that there was no African Americans on the jury rolls in Alabama.
Wow.
So there was no possibility of having anyone except white people on the jury.
The book is called A Free, Unsullied Land. It is written by our guest, Maggie Kast, and we'll continue this conversation when we come back. I'm curious, when we come back, Maggie, I'm going to ask you this, that as an historian, were you ever tempted to say, gosh, I'm just going to write the history of this and leave the novel out of it? Although I think a novel sometimes brings the non-historically interested party into a story and therefore delivers the message. We'll be right back after this.
Okay, thank you.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, it'll be partly sunny, very warm and humid with a high of 86 to 90. Partly to mostly cloudy Monday nights with some fog around late, low 70 to 74. For Tuesday, some morning fog, otherwise times of clouds and sun, very warm and humid with a shower or thunderstorm in spots, the high 86 to 90. For Wednesday, partly sunny and warm, high 84 to 88. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
We're saving thousands with Robert Palmer.
So rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around. If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get the best credit card, if you're looking at student loans, cell phone bills, rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around.
That's rule number one, just one more vital part of fighting back to stop being a financial zombie. Yes, you can take the mystery out of the complicated world of finances. Take charge when it comes to your money. Listen in on The Source in 96.3 FM. 1370 AM, Saturdays at 12:05.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Do you have areas that have started sagging or drooping? Is what you're looking at not quite the same as it was years ago? Are there enhancements you've been putting off? Is there serious damage you need fixed? Then call on us, Damage Control Services. When your roof is sagging and the drywall is drooping after a storm, or your home just needs some enhancements, from damage repairs to new construction, Damage Control Services is here to help.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking: will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, thank you. 11 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Maggie Kast is on the phone. Her book is called A Free Unsullied Land. It is an historical essay, but it is a novel. Maggie, you know what I was thinking during the break? That because you've shared with us the fact that the whole story got started when you were kind of imagining what your mother must have been like when she was the younger person that you never knew. I did the same thing. I didn't write a book, but after my mom died, I was going through some old photographs and looking at pictures that I probably had seen before in my life, but never thought of them the same way. And I would see my mom standing as a teenager thinking, gosh, I wonder what life was like for her at that moment, you know? Mm-hmm. And so did that happen for you as you're writing the book? Do you try to, not to channel your mother, I don't mean in the sense that word is normally used, but in figuratively, were you channeling your mother or putting yourself in her body maybe? Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
Well, very much so. For instance, I listened to music of the period, the music that, and some of it, you know, I just got on records, but some of it I knew because she had listened to it. And so there are songs that she sang to me that are songs from the 20s and 30s.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I got out, you know, just from records and iTunes and so on, I got like collections of music by Fats Waller, and then my mother was very fond of Dixieland jazz. She was always playing that, so you know I listened to a lot of that.
Oh, that is cool.
But then, yeah, so all of that really plays like a soundtrack in the novel. Some of it from my own that I learned directly from my mother, and some from records.
So, are you like her? Are you the go-getter? Are you the one who stands up for injustice?
Oh, well, no, I think she was a lot better at that than I was. I mean, even as I knew her, she was, because she was a real good community activist. But we are alike in many ways. She became a writer late in life, which is the same thing that I did. So, you know, in that sense, we're very much alike. She was very verbal as a child, and I think I did use that a lot in the novel. She liked to make puns and jokes with words and use words in funny ways that would surprise people.
Wow.
Do you have Native American heritage? You refer to the Apaches in the book.
No, that was my that was my parents' field of study. My father was an anthropologist, and my mother did not work as an anthropologist, but she studied anthropology, and she did do field work among the Apache. Although she certainly did not have the experience that's in the book, no way. But she did do that. She was had a summer of field work there.
So I hope the word fun doesn't bring this to a different level, but was it fun to make this into a novel as opposed to just an historical book?
Yeah, by the way, I have to emphasize that I'm not a historian. I mean, I am only a novelist. I used other people's histories to write it.
Okay.
But yes, it was the research is the most fun part of it, you know, because writing can be hard. But the research was a lot of fun. And I just recently published an essay about that on Jane Friedman's blog. It's called The Feel of Real, Researching a Novel. And that's about how you weave together research and how you prevent research from killing the story. because that's often a problem for writers. That, with the internet right there, you can stop working on the story and go look something up, and that can really stop your process.
Right.
So for me at least, it's a back and forth that's fairly subtle.
So do you paint a picture of the South, especially Alabama, that you feel is accurate?
Well, I'm not a Southerner, so I would hate to claim accuracy, but I tried to. I looked at photos and I read reports, including there's a lot of interviews with people, older people from Scottsboro who talk still, at least online, have material online about their city and how they wish that the train had not stopped there and so on. So I tried to, get a more empathic view of what it was like to be there. And I also thought a lot about the community of people that those two white women came from, because they were very poor and very destitute. And at one point in the novel, I have Henriette in jail, in an all-white jail, where I hope I gave a somewhat empathic picture of the life of those women. All I can say is I tried. I can't claim I did.
Yeah. And so do you get pulled into it as you're writing, as your creative mind is making its way through your fingers and it's on the paper? Are you there at that time? Are you in part of the turmoil? Do you feel it? Like when you get up to take a break after writing, are you still kind of twirling from it all?
Oh, yes, that can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it certainly can. I mean, the process of writing is very involving, and you can easily not remember where you are or what you were doing. Get up and walk around the house and think, what am I doing here?
So you've not been to Scottsboro?
I have not been to Scottsboro.
So I wonder what would happen if you went to Scottsboro. You've got kind of an intimate connection with it because of your imagination. I wonder what it would be like when you go there. It's almost like you have a new friend.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I think it would be very different now from what it was like then, just as Chicago or Ocala is very different from what it was then. It's hard to go back in history, but it would certainly be interesting.
But when you put out a book of this magnitude, sometimes when people read it, they'll see a mirror image of themselves in parts of the book and think, ooh, this isn't very becoming. I've got to stop this and change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very possible. And it's also possible on a personal level. This is always a problem when you write, that people may not like, what you've written, especially they may think you've written about them when you haven't, and they may think you haven't written about them when you should. So it's although both of my parents are deceased, there are plenty of people around that knew them.
Gosh.
Any surviving relatives of the guys that were jailed, what was it, 9 guys? I can't remember how many now.
Yes, 9.
9 guys. I mean, have they contacted you? Do they know about the book?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone around that I've heard of. It'll be really interesting if it turns out there is.
Somebody contacts you.
Yeah, I did find historical material, for instance, by, as I mentioned earlier, by some of the other historical characters in the novel, people that were more famous, and therefore their material has been published. They're just more verbal. Like Theodore Dreiser, the author of Sister Carrie, he had some material, some speeches that he made about the Scottsboro Boys, which I used in the book.
Is there a paranormal element to the story?
Well, I wouldn't call it exactly paranormal, but I would call it, I guess, spiritual, because Henriette was not a religious person, but when she got involved when she went to this Apache funeral, she suddenly had this feeling that, that maybe there was some way to change the past, to change her father's experience with his mother, because he had been supporting his family alone since he was 13 years old. And, she felt if he could have had a better life, then he might have been a better father to her. So I wouldn't call that exactly paranormal, but it's definitely a connection of a different feeling with someone who's gone than you've had before, a closer feeling, a feeling that perhaps you could influence things.
When you're on your speaking engagements and you allow people to ask questions, no matter where you speak, is there one similar question that people will ask you?
Well, I don't know yet. I could only answer that in relationship to my first book, where I had a lot of discussions, but this hasn't. Today is the publication date, so I haven't had any events yet.
Oh, it'll happen.
But people, I loved discussing my first book, and I loved it when people actually had answers, not just questions, but answers. I mean, they had ideas about what had happened, and they spoke them, and I loved that.
Yeah, that is cool. I have a copy of the book that was sent to us. Maggie sent us a copy. It's an advanced review copy, so this is kind of a collector's item. It's called A Free Unsullied Land, if you're just tuning in, and I'm sure you will enjoy this book. The phone number to call if you'd like the copy that I have is 622-9622. Just ask, and if I take your call, you'll be the one who gets it. And the rest of us will have to go buy it. Let me take the call first. And where's that little button I got to push here? All right, here we go. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Jimmy.
Jim, you got it. It'll be waiting for you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're going to sell a lot of these books. That went quick. Maggie, how do we buy this?
It's on Amazon. It's also available from the publisher, which is Fomite Press. That's Fomite. They're online.
Okay.
And then possibly your local bookstore. If you have an independent bookstore, you could ask them about it.
Are you working on another book right now?
No, I've been working mostly on short pieces. I've been writing essays. I've been writing a lot of guest blog posts about the process of writing, and then I've been writing some stories and some short essays.
Okay, and your website is?
www.maggiekast, that's MAGGIEKAST.com.
All right, I'm glad I asked. I didn't see it on my notes here. So thank you so much for telling me that. I'm a fan.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm a fan already, Maggie. Thank you so much for being on the air with us. I think a lot of people who live right here in Ocala, Florida, can relate to some of the things that you have painted in words in the book, A Free Unsullied Land. It sounds like there's a lot of similarities between what happened here and what may have happened elsewhere in the South. Thank you, Maggie.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Larry. It was great to talk to you.
All right, we'll be right back.
News Radio, I'm Carmen Roberts. A disagreement over what brought down the Russian airliner in Egypt.
A Metrojet official says the plane's crew did not send a distress call and did not contact Egyptian traffic controllers before the jet crashed into the Sinai Desert. The airline official's comments directly contradict what Egyptian officials have said, that the pilots had reported a technical problem and wanted to make an emergency landing at the nearest airport.
Fox News' Jessica Gallagher. Police are searching for the gunman who killed one student and injured another at Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. A vigil last night.
We are deeply saddened to say that we can positively identify Anthony White Jr., a second-year student from Charlotte, North Carolina, as the deceased victim.
University spokesman Aaron Singleton. And the Royals are the World Series champs. They beat the Mets 4-1. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Meet Vince. Vince hurt himself mountain biking on Saturday.
Because weekend warrior.
Because noob.
Hey!
Vince is supposed to host an important presentation, but he's not going anywhere in that cast. What should he do?
Rhetorical question.
Vince should try GoToMeeting, the simple way to host meetings online, complete with video conferencing and screen sharing. Send out a meeting link and anyone can join from any computer, tablet, or smartphone. Just takes a click.
Where do I sign up?
Visit GoToMeeting.com to start your free